Welcome to the 31 Days of Fright horror movie project, year 6, presented by the 2-Ton Nerds. As always, my name is Max James, and in this episode of the TTN Presents, I will be talking about my top 10 double features that I like to watch during the month of October. Now, I want to talk about the double feature concept by itself before I kind of jump right in. Now, I love the double feature horror movies, and I just like the double feature movies in general because they're just a lot of fun when you can like double feature two movies, like sequels or threequels or if there are more than that, or like the Harry Potter series or Star Wars or whatever, Lord of the Rings, including the Hobbit movies. But sometimes one horror movie just isn't enough. So I like to double up on horror movies occasionally, especially during the month of October. Now, I do a lot of double features, but the top 10 I'm getting ready to talk about are the ones that I think are the best ones that I do. Because these are fun, they're exciting, they're really well matched up. Some of them are very polar opposites, but I think they're a lot of fun to do back to back because they're very opposite, but they're very well done within the realm of that genre. I'll talk about that when I get to that particular double feature. But overall, this is the ones I think are the best ones that I've done for the month of October. Now, I might have talked about a bunch of these during the previous years for the 31 Days of Fright, but when I talk about a singular movie, I'm talking about that movie by itself. And it's a whole different kind of monster when you compare it to another movie that's very similar. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and that's why this is brand new to me, because I'll be talking about a lot of these movies in comparison with another movie that I like to watch as well. So I'm going to get right into going. My number 10 spot is Ginger Snaps and American Werewolf in London. Now, these, in my opinion, are the best werewolf movies. There's a lot of werewolf movies, but these are the two that stand out above the rest to me because they're very good at showing the process of which one person goes through when once bitten by a werewolf, because you got two very different main characters, but the whole mythology around the werewolf is so good because you got Ginger Snaps, which is our main character is a female high school student who is obsessed with murder and firmly planted in the realm of goth. She is bitten and she starts to transform because she is like one of those people who are just kind of, you will never notice them unless something happens. And it's just really cool because when she becomes bitten, her whole world changes, because even her friend starts to get pushed to the side, who stood by her through and through and everything. And on the other hand, you got American Werewolf in London, where the werewolf curse plays a different kind of role with him because he feels the effects of it, but he also has the psyche his mind starts to kind of go down the toilet, because throughout the whole movie his friend who was also attacked by the werewolf was killed, and he's just following him around and he's slowly decaying as the movie kind of goes along, and he's just messing with him, and it's just like messing with our main character, and it's a lot of fun. That's why I like the double feature of these two, because they're just really good werewolf movies, and they have very distinct takes on the werewolf mythology, especially Ginger Snaps, because they really dive into the mythology and the lycanthrope stuff. It's a lot of fun. So, number 9 is Alien and They Live. You got two horror sci-fi masters. You got Ridley Scott and John Carpenter, who I love to pair up alien movies. I know the more logical choice would be Aliens, but I like to double feature these two because they're so polar opposites of the same genre of alien movie, because you got Alien, where it's in space and where no one can hear you scream, and then taking on just a small crew with a singular alien, whereas in They Live, it's a whole city world where the aliens have been living amongst us, and Roddy Piper has to but kind of gets thrusted into this conspiracy where he is finding out that aliens is amongst him, and he's just kind of like, hey, this person's an alien, and it's a lot of fun. Now, the reason why I like to double feature them is, like I said, these movies are polar opposites. You got one, it's very dark and gloomy and kind of industrial, while the other one's kind of like bright and colorful and very dialogue heavy. And the aliens and the alien in They Live, and then the alien in Alien, are totally two different concepts. Ones are like more humanistic, and one is more animalistic. It hunts and moves through the air ducts. It's just a lot of fun. That's why I like to compare. That's why I like to double feature these two, because they're just different. But they're really good entries in the alien genre of the sci-fi horror realm. Now, my number 8 spot goes to my all-time favorite director, Kevin Smith, with his 2 horror movies, Red State and Tusk. Now, Red State isn't your traditional horror movie that you would see on the rest of this list, but it is horrific. Like, I went to see this movie when he brought it on tour, and the reason why it's a horror movie because what happens in the movie is horrific, so it's technically a horror movie. So I know that could go a long way for a lot of movies, but once I kind of start to explain it, you'll understand. But Red State is about a religious cult who kidnaps people based on their various sins and basically executes them on stage in front of their congregation. Whereas in Tusk, now, before I get into Tusk, I want to say that this movie is good for at least one viewing if you're very curious about this concept, what this movie is about. If you don't know what it's about, I can't wait to tell you. But it's about this podcaster who likes to go around collecting stories, and then he comes back and tells his friend on his podcast, and they talk about it, and they just basically just tear the person apart. But hence, when he goes up to meet a story, that particular story is no longer available. So he comes across another story where this guy has befriended a walrus, and he has a bunch of other stories to tell. So he's like, oh, this would be perfect. So while he's there, he slowly gets transformed into a walrus. And then he has to... It's really good. I know it's a weird concept about a guy gets turned into a walrus, but it's good for at least one viewing. I even laughed at this movie in one particular scene. I kind of talked about it in the Tusk review, the full-length review, because it's... Just go watch that one. But the reason why I double feature this one is because they're both Kevin Smith movies, and they're very out of the realm of his normal filmmaking. It's Jay and Silent Bob stoner movies, where these movies are very weird, but they're very good. I love Tusk. I think Tusk is a very good movie because it's different. That's why I love it. It's different, but and the reason why I like to pair it up with Red State is because it's a Kevin Smith movie. There's another entry on this list is just for the director alone. But I highly recommend Red State just because of a religious cult kind of who believes into the end of the world, and they take it upon themselves to cleanse the world of sin, and they end up kind of rubbing the ATF the wrong way, or the FBI, and they end up having a showdown. It's a lot of fun. It's very creepy. It's very well shot. It doesn't feel like a Kevin Smith film. My 7th spot goes to Shaun of the Dead and Return of the Living Dead. Now, the reason why I like to double feature these two movies is because they have a lot in common, despite one being British and one being American. Uh, Zombie movies, but they are so heavily influenced by George A. Romero, who passed away recently, or prior to making this video. But George A. Romero zombie movies are what all zombie movies are really like. Are just like poor imitations, basically, but only a very select few come very close to being up there with those George A. Romero movies, and these two are just a select few, because Return of the Living Dead basically takes everything that George A. Romero has set up, like shooting him in the head and them not talking, and throws it out the window and says, you know what? Shoot him in the head doesn't work. They can have very limited speech to brains. That's where that comes from. And whereas in Shaun the Dead, it's heavily influenced by George A. Romero. And that's a good thing, because they take George A. Romero's tropes and stuff like that and amplify it and make it their own. And it's a very fast-paced movie for being a zombie movie. But it's so well edited and acted. Both of these movies are, even though one is more modern and one is, you can tell it's made in the 80s. But they are so well done. Both movies, that's why these are like really crowning achievements in the zombie genre movies, because they take what has George A. Romero has set up and basically made it their own, or thrown it out the window, which is really great. So I really recommend these two. That's why I like to double feature these movies, because you can just feel George A. Romero in this movie. My number 6 spot goes to Reanimator and Bride of Reanimator. These two, obviously, the reason why I like to double feature these two movies is because they're direct sequels of one another, but also they're good retellings of the Frankenstein. Because you got your mad scientist, you got its creations, you got its experiments, and obviously in Bride of Frankenstein, he basically builds a whole human being out of dead flesh, whereas in Reanimator he kind of does. He kind of builds up to a whole human body who has just deceased, rather than building one. So that's why I really like these two movies. Plus, they're gory. They're just fun. They have good special effects. They're well acted, both of them. You got Jeffrey Combs, who plays Herbert West in both installments. He is phenomenal, and it just I want to commend Bride of Reanimator. I know that one does not get a lot of love, but it does have a very spectacular ending, because where the final special effects to bring this dead body to life, where it's all patchwork and stitches, and it's just a lot of makeup effects to go to make this, and I really love it. That's why I love these two, because they're practical. Or they just use like reverse motion and stuff like that. That's why I like to double feature these two, because like I said, obvious reasons, because they're direct sequels, but they are just good, and they're just a good retelling of the Frankenstein story. Just that's why. I mean, because you need your Universal monster in here, but I do like the Universal versions of the Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, but for being more horror, I want like the blood and guts kind of horror. That's why I go with Reanimator and Bride of Reanimator. Now, number 5 is another reason why I just picked it, because of the director, but he has made a couple horror movies. You got Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, or Brain Dead when it's released somewhere else, and Frighteners. Now, I absolutely love Frighteners. It's one of my favorite movies to watch during the month of October, either by itself or with this movie. Now, you can't watch Dead Alive unless you want to shell out some major bucks on Blu-ray, or because it's very expensive and it's out of print. But if you can get yourself a copy or find a whatever, I highly recommend it because Dead Alive is a whole different kind of movie by itself. But when you compare it with Frighteners, you kind of understand where Peter Jackson kind of has he has a distinct style when he comes to movies. Because when you watch Dead Alive, it's just about this guy who goes to Africa or wherever, and he brings back this monkey rat thing to the zoo, and this lady gets bitten, comes home, gets infected, and then just hell breaks loose. It's a lot of fun, especially that last half hour of that movie where God doesn't even know what's going to happen next. This guy basically tears the handles off a push mower, just runs straight into a horde of zombies and just blood and guts, and it's not like super gory. It's super gory. I mean, like super realistic gory. It's like that campy gory, but it's like, oh my god, that's a whatever flying, and this is flying, and especially that last 10 minutes of the movie. Oh, okay. Just watch it. That's another movie, just like Tusk, where it's like one viewing, watch it. But if you're a big fan of Peter Jackson like me and my friend Spencer, this is a must to watch during October with Frighteners, where you got Michael J. Fox, kind of, who can see ghosts, but kind of uses that to his ability to kind of like, hey, go haunt this house so I can come in and cleanse it for you. and then at the same time, there's kind of an epidemic kind of going around town where people are dying of freak heart attacks, who are really at some point. Some people are really healthy or no signs of being or could be leaded could be I can't think of the word, but they're just very freak deaths, and comes to the point where the plot thickens, and it's really, really good. It's really done really well. The ghost effects are some of the best. I highly recommend these two. Now, number 4, you kind of have to have some kid movies. I don't care who you are. These two movies are some of my. I don't care how old you are. You have to at least have some down to earth kid movies within the realm of October, because you can't always have blood and guts. You kind of have some like good old wholesome fun, kid humor, and that's why I like to watch Frankenweenie and Paranorman, both stop motion movies. Oh, these are great movies to watch during the month of October, because they're very good Halloween movies, because this is where I kind of get my Universal fix with Frankenweenie, because it's shot in black and white, or made black and white. And each of the monsters are reminiscent of Universal monsters, because we got our main character whose dog has died in an accident. He got run over. So it's another retelling of Frankenstein, and he's determined to bring his dog back to life. And then in doing so, for the science fair, other kids kind of like, hey, let's do this. So they all do it, and their experiments go awry, and which kind of you get creatures from the Black Lagoon, Godzilla, the Wolfman, Dracula, all kind of like in their own various Tim Burton ways, but they're all done really well. It fit within the realm of this movie. It's exciting. And then you get Paranorman, who can see ghosts, but I don't want to spoil this one. I just want you to watch this one, because it's a lot of fun. I was very pleasantly surprised by Paranorman, because I was because Frankenweenie kind of sets the bar pretty high, like also with Nightmare Before Christmas and stuff like that. But Paranorman is really good. So that's all I want to say about that. But I won't let you down when I say pair it up with Frankenweenie and have a good night with the kids, or just whatever. Those two are really good movies to watch together. Now, number 3. I've talked about this at great length in my Evil Dead review. But I wanted to talk about this as a more grander experience, because when you watch Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness, the remake of Evil Dead, plus the TV show that continues with Ash's character from the original Evil Dead series, it's a lot of fun. That's a whole week's worth of crap right there. That's why I recommend that one. I'm not going to go too much into depth, but I highly recommend just go and watch the actual review for those on the 31 Days of Fright playlist and stuff like that. But the reason why I like to do it is because these are fun. These are the ones that you should get your friends together on a movie night and watch, because no matter who you are, one of you will have fun watching. It's like, if you're the person who loves to pick movies apart, it's like, oh, there's The Wire, and oh my god, that's terrible, that's not scary. And then you'll have the occasional people like, oh my god, that's gross, and oh my god, this Bruce Campbell, and it's like, you'll have a little bit of everyone, and if you have a nice set of friends. Okay, so number 2, there's 2 answers for this one. You got Halloween 1 and 2 directed by John Carpenter. And then you got Halloween 1 and 2 directed by Rob Zombie. Now, I like to switch these out every couple of years. Watch 1 or 2 by Carpenter or Zombie. Sometimes I just like to watch all 4. But the reason why I like to double feature these two, because they both are really direct sequels of one another. Especially Halloween 1 and 2, directed by John Carpenter, because it literally takes place the next day. And whereas in, the zombie remakes, they kind of take place about a year, I think. But it still takes place on the year to the date kind of thing. So, now the reason why I put these at number 2, because they are really good at being set on Halloween. That's kind of why they're number 2. But the reasons why I have number 1s is for a distinct reason, because these are good horror movies. These are either you get the brutal goriness of the Rob Zombie remakes, or you get the kind of the slow, methodical Carpenter versions, the originals. But there are 2 different takes. But also, the Rob Zombie ones have a very distinct edge, because it kind of shows a little bit more backstory into Michael Myers and how he grew up and how kind of rough his childhood was, which led to him becoming Michael Myers as we know him as today. So, but also that kind of hurts a little bit, because not knowing is kind of half the fun. Kind of like Jaws. Less is more. So that's kind of like that. But that's why I kind of compare these two, because they're just set in Halloween. And you can have a double feature without one of these. So my number 1. Okay. The reason why I chose these 2 is because to me, these capture the Halloween spirit. These are the ones that to me, have a great, distinct Halloween feeling. You got Trick or Treat and Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Now, I've talked about Trick or Treat and as well as Halloween 3. But I've never talked to them about why I double feature them. Is because they are good Halloween movies. They are the ones that I like to watch actually on October 31st, because especially Trick or Treat, because it's so well firmly planted on the realm of Halloween spirit, because you got werewolves and monsters, and you got this little character Sam running around, and you can just feel Halloween in this movie. Same with Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, because it takes place on Halloween. You got this kind of advertisement going on, the the whatever. I don't want to get into that because it'll be stuck in my head, but it has a very distinct jingle that will get stuck in your head. But it's a very good mystery set on Halloween, but it just feels like a Halloween mystery. Whereas in the Halloween remake and the originals, they are good because they're good the slasher movies that are set on Halloween, where these are just good mystery, where a Halloween 3 is a good mystery movie set on Halloween, and then Trick or Treat is an anthology movie where you can get several different stories out of one night. So that is my reasons why I watch all these movies and double feature them. I know I kind of talked about a bunch of them over the years, but a couple of them I haven't. So I hope you enjoyed this list. As always, my name is Max James, and I will have a few more videos scattered out through the month of October. So look for those. As always, my name is Max James, and I'm going to go geek out.